What is up? It's your man Steady KS. Are you wondering if you should spend your hard-earned money on an Astro C40 controller? I'll let you know what I think right after the break. Thank you for stopping by Steady Chaos Production. So let me cut straight to the point. The Astro C40 controller. It's certainly aesthetically a very sexy, very pleasing looking controller, all black, kind of murdered out if you will. It looks very, very nice. It looks very, very premium and very high end. Now I've had this controller for I'd say about 5 or 6 months now, and I've been using it primarily on my PlayStation 4, but I do occasionally use it on my PC as well. So I've made a list of the various pros for this particular controller. So the first thing that I have listed here for the C40, it's comfortable. It's a fair bit bigger than the PlayStation 4 controller, and it fits really nicely in your hands. I'd say if you have average size hands, it'll be a great fit. If your hands are a bit on the smaller side, you might want to stick with the PlayStation 4 controller, but just for comparison's sake, here's the PlayStation 4 controller, and here is the Astro C40. So you can see the difference in size. The C40 is a fair bit bigger than the PlayStation 4 controller, certainly. But most people regard, I would say, the Xbox 360 controller as being the best controller on the market, and I feel like this controller, the C40, is certainly modeled after that feel and that sort of heft and weight. So if you are into the Xbox controller and you want something that is very similar to that controller on the PlayStation, then the C40 might be for you. Now, as I said, the C40 comes off as having a very solid build, no major issues with the controller itself. The joysticks still work fine, although sometimes there's some issue with stick drift and dead zones, which I'll get into in a moment. But overall, mechanically speaking, the joysticks work fine. There's been no breaking of any of the buttons. The triggers still work fine and are very snappy. So about 6 months in, with I'd say moderate to heavy use, the C40 has held up thus far anyway. Now, perhaps onto the best part of this controller is the customization of the controller. The controller can be taken apart. So you see here, when you look at the controller, it has this outline right here that runs along the face of the controller. Now, if you were to use the included Allen wrench that comes into the package, you can unscrew these 4 screws right here, and you can lift this faceplate off, and if you so choose, you can go with an Xbox One joystick configuration, or you can keep the PlayStation 4 joystick configuration. So if you want, you could move this D-pad down here and move a joystick up here so that it's very much like the Xbox One controller. You can also, if you were so inclined, you could move the D-pad over here and it would work just fine. I don't know why you would do that, but it does offer you a nice level of customization as far as where the joysticks are placed, and that is very much appreciated. Now, another great feature of the Astro C40 is you can use it wired if you so choose. It comes with a USB charging cable and you can play with a wired connection, or you can use the included dongle, which allows you to play wirelessly. Now, another really great thing about the Astro C40 controller is that it comes with a software program that you can download free of charge from astro.com, and that software will update the firmware for the controller automatically if there is an update available, or you can do manual updates. But more importantly, the software allows you to remap the button configuration on the controller itself. So let me show you what I mean by that. Alright, now here you see I have the Astro C40 software program open here on my computer, and it allows you to see the entire button configuration of your controller, and then it allows you to map them as you see fit. So right now these are all the available buttons on your Astro C40 in the left-hand column, and then you can assign them various commands here on the right-hand column. So you see I haven't changed any of my button configurations per se. They're all pretty much the same default value. So X is X, circle is circle, square is square, and so on. The only thing that I've changed is the UL and UR buttons, which are the rear facing buttons here on the controller. I found that I inadvertently hit them a lot while I was playing, especially if I tensed up playing a first-person shooter, somebody ran around the corner and surprised me. I always hit them inadvertently, and I'd find my character trying to stab or melee or duck, and it would really throw off my timing and my rhythm. So what I did was I just unmapped them. Basically, I made the UL and UR buttons non-functional. They simply do not work. So now when I accidentally click them, they don't do anything in the game. You know, they don't affect me negatively at all. And then in the software, you can also adjust the stick sensitivity here. You can make the stick more sensitive or less sensitive depending on your taste. You can also make the triggers more or less sensitive depending on your taste and playstyle. And you can also adjust the audio speaker. There is a small speaker on the C40, just like there is on the PlayStation controller. You can adjust the volume of that. There is also a mic out function. And then down in the effects tab, you can change the intensity of the controller's rumble function, and you can also change the intensity of the controller's LED light. So as you see here, as I'm moving this slider, this light here on the C40 is becoming brighter or dimmer. I tend to keep it dimmer just so that's less of a distraction. But as you can see, there are some nice customization options for button mapping, for stick sensitivity, and for trigger sensitivity, which is very, very welcome for gamers. And of course, you can have various profile settings. If you want a setting where the sticks are particularly sensitive, you can make a profile and save it. If you want a setting where the triggers are particularly sensitive, you can make a profile and save that separately as well. Now, another pro, even though I said that they often get in the way for me, is these UL and UR buttons are there, and they are programmable and they are usable in various games if that's something you are interested in using. And the final pro is that the C40 can be used on the PlayStation 4 as well as your PC. On the PC, it's basically plug and play and bam, you're up and running within 5 seconds. The Windows 10 automatically recognizes the C40 as a game controller, you're good to go. And pretty much the same thing on the PlayStation 4. You plug this bad boy in, you are good to go. You're up and running in almost no time. So, based on the review so far, you're probably thinking to yourself, well, this is all sunshine and rainbows. I have great button customization. I can use it on the PlayStation 4 and the PC. It's sturdy, it's attractive looking, it has back trigger buttons. What is there not to like, Josh? You can use it wirelessly, wired. You're right, those are all great pros, but they don't come without some cons, and some serious cons, I might add. So I have a list here. Now, like I said, this is a fairly large controller, so if you have smaller hands or you're looking to buy this controller for, say, a 7 or 8 year old girl or boy, they're probably going to have a bit of a harder time using this controller as opposed to, say, a PlayStation 4 controller. The PlayStation 4 controller is a fair bit lighter and it is a fair bit smaller in my estimation, so it's a little bit easier to use, I think, if you have smaller hands. And as I mentioned previously, the rear button placement is annoying sometimes. I don't know if there's a way that they could have made the buttons a little bit higher towards the center or middle of the back of the controller so that you're not inadvertently hitting them all the time. But as it stands now, like I showed you in the software, I had to deactivate the rear buttons because I just hit them all the time inadvertently and it was driving me absolutely bonkers. So while it's a good option to have these rear buttons, the placement is not really the best. I mean, look at how you hold the controller. Your fingers automatically go right to that spot, which is why they probably put the buttons there, but you're always inadvertently hitting them and it drives me mad. So nice to have, but annoying at the same time. Now, another big annoyance I found with this controller is the dead zones. Oh my god, the joystick dead zones are constant with this controller, and it became a bit of a problem when I was playing Ghost of Tsushima. So anytime that you go at, say, a 45-ish degree angle, so if you're going this way or this way, at an angle up and to the left or up and to the right when you're trying to run with your character will just start walking. He won't start running or jogging because the joystick has a dead zone, and by putting pressure on it at this angle, it's not registering as full or maximum pressure. It's almost registering as you only pushing it slightly, and that's why your character walks. That's why he doesn't just take off jogging, which is so frustrating. And this is probably something that I can show you in the software program itself. Now, I have the joystick plugged in here. Now, if we look at the sticks, okay, I have my thumb on the left joystick right now. Now take a look at where it says left stick sensitivity. You see this? You see how it's tracking my joystick right now? It's showing that I'm applying pressure to the joystick. Now, when I go at a 45 degree or so angle to the top and left, look what happens. Look, I'm getting about 80% power or 80% sensitivity. Now look at the joystick. I have the joystick pushed all the way to the top and to the left. I can't go any further. And look at this meter, 80%. That is why your character will start walking and not running when you want him to run. When you're applying full pressure, the character's like, doo-doo-doo. I'm just walking because you're only applying 80% pressure, right? That's how it's registering. You're not giving me 100% sensitivity. So that is, oh my God, that is so annoying. I don't know why it does that, but the same for the top right. As you can see here, it fluctuates between 80 and 85%. Top left, 80%. So terribly frustrating. It's not as bad with the right joystick, as you can see. Applying full pressure at about 45 degrees, and we're right around, what, 90% or so? Full pressure to the top and left at about 45 degrees, and we're about 80% here. So again, even with the right joystick, it can be problematic. So if you are somebody who cannot stand dead zones on a controller, don't get the C40, because it is a constant problem in particular games. Games that require you to have full sensitivity registration of the joysticks in order for the character to run, this controller will drive you bonkers. Ghost of Tsushima requires that you get 100% joystick sensitivity to the top left or top right in order for the character to start running, and the C40, for whatever reason, does not have that. And so your character will walk, and it's just gonna drive you nuts. And then that brings me to my next con. The Astro C40 controller does not turn on your PlayStation 4 when you hit the power button in the center here. So normally, whereas on a PlayStation controller, you hit this power button and it turns on your controller and it turns on your PlayStation automatically, you start gaming, you're good to go. With the C40, you hold this button down, it does nothing. So you have to physically get up, you have to hit that button on the PlayStation 4 console for it to turn on, then you start playing. And the next con, while the controller looks durable, certainly feels well made and well constructed, has not really given me any problems in terms of durability. When I did buy the controller, the lady at Best Buy, the sales lady who checked me out, urged me to get the warranty plan. Now she's probably simply trying to upsell me, trying to rip me off, get me to pay an extra 40 or 50 bucks. But it worked, because she basically told me these things get returned all the time for breaking down, and it's usually the joysticks. So I figured if I'm spending $200 on this, what's another 40 or 50 bucks to ensure my investment over the next 2 years. So I got the extended warranty. Like I said, I haven't needed it yet, but based on her commentary, I may need it soon. So that is why I got it, and I figured that's a bit of anecdotal evidence. I wanted to just throw it into this review to let you know that at Best Buy, they see returns of this product all the time, at least according to her. And then that brings me to my last con for this controller. It's just way too expensive. For $200, okay, you could probably find a PlayStation 4, a base PlayStation 4 console used on eBay or Amazon for less than $200 at this point. This controller is $200 in and of itself. And you're really not gaining anything physically. I still use the controller in the PlayStation 4 configuration. I have the joysticks in the center. So for me, I'm not really gaining much other than it's a slightly heavier and bulkier controller. It has some nice kind of rubberish, almost soft finish on the sides. That's a little bit more pleasing to hold and offers you maybe slightly better grip, but otherwise, I don't find that this improves my experience when I'm gaming. I don't find that it makes me faster in first-person shooters or that the joysticks are more responsive. Just the opposite, like I said. There are often dead zones and stick drift issues that accompany the Astro C40 that I simply don't have, or at least not as often with a base PlayStation 4 controller. And like I said, add to the fact that you cannot turn the console on and off with this controller without getting up out of your seat and physically turning the console on yourself. It really is not worth the price. If you have $200 laying around and you want a controller that you can use for both your PC and your PlayStation 4 so that there's consistency across both platforms, and you want something that has rear buttons and can be remapped both physically and digitally, then sure, maybe you want to look into getting the Astro. But if you are a basic gamer, if you play play a few hours a week, you play a little bit of online gaming here and there, just stick with the regular PlayStation 4 controller. It works just as well. Save your money, spend 40 or 50 bucks on the PlayStation 4 controller, and you will be good to go. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it helpful in some way. If you did like the video, certainly leave a like. Let me know in the comments down below what you thought. Do you have this controller? And if so, what has your experience been like? If you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so, and we will see you soon. Peace.